Hello and welcome everyone to OnPoint Technologies PC and Mac Mall webinars Wednesday. We are thrilled to have you with us for Microsoft Azure webinar, which is deeper insight and control across on-premises and cloud environments. To present on this topic, we have got Brian Manzure, who is Azure Solutions Sales Specialist from PCM. Before going into our main presentation, we have got a few housekeeping items. Please remember to enter your questions in the question box on your right-hand side, and I will relay those over to our speaker at the end of the presentation. We do send out a survey at the end of the webinar. Please fill it out and let us know how we did, as well as topic you'd like to see covered in the future. You should see the survey in your inboxes later today. Speaking of future webinars, please sure to check out our weekly webinar schedule on our website at www.onpoint.com/webinars. We are also recording this webinar, which will be available for playback in a few days. Recordings are also posted to our webinar page along with webinar schedules. And without further ado, I'm happy to hand it off to our main speaker today, who is Brian Manzure, who is Azure Solutions Sales Professional. Brian, you're on now.
So thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone out there that has joined us. I appreciate your time to learn a little bit more around Microsoft Operations Management Suite. My name is Brian Manzure. I am one of the Azure specialists for PCM. Really what I get a chance to focus on and talk with customers is around the Microsoft Cloud. With the focus on Azure and enterprise mobility and security in general. I cover up and down the East Coast, and I like to say this side of the Mississippi, and we have a great resource that covers the Central and the rest of the United States to support as a counterpart of myself as an Azure specialist as well. So what I do is I get a chance to talk with customers and organizations out there like yourselves around the Microsoft Cloud, really educate, maybe talk about a little bit about roadmap, things coming down the line from Microsoft in the cloud space. And I like to find out what organizations are doing in different verticals with the cloud, what solutions are using and implementing. That tends to get, when I share that with other organizations, that tends to get the conversation rolling, what other people are doing. So, and really just what lines up with your IT roadmap. So, that's a quick little introduction to myself, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with the actual presentation. So, what brought us here, right? When we're looking for deeper insights and control across on-premise and the cloud, you might already be using some type of solutions, or maybe even something like System Center on-premises for management and control of your on-prem environments, but now that workloads are and resources are moving from on-premises to cloud, including Azure, AWS, Google, there are plenty out there to choose from. How are we managing those resources, and what type of insight do we have? And that's really what operations management brings to the table. So some of the common challenges of IT staff are that the siloed infrastructure and operations due to the sprawling on-premise and cloud environments triggered by the application and data explosion everywhere, coupled with slow and reactive responses to the needs of businesses. So as we have constant asks of what we need to bring to market quicker by our business units, our environments, both on premises and now moving to the cloud with that hybrid approach, are really blowing up. So with that, it brings its own unique and sometimes common challenges that we see across the board. So every IT pro aspires to have that simple unified management view with standardized automated processes and configurations to proactively respond to business needs with fast and cost-effective innovation. So if we take a closer look at some of these challenges and how we can address them with Microsoft technologies, it's really what this slide is kind of just highlighting on a few of them. We won't read down all of them. I think you can do that for yourselves. But how do we operate, manage, support those environments to address those issues. You know, heterogeneous environment, we all just don't have the same things anymore. You know, I came from infrastructure side before this particular role with PCM, and dealt with many different technologies across the way, right? And how do I manage all that? How to get my hands all around that? It's not just a one-stop shop or one type of shop on technology anymore. So being able to manage that platform from anywhere. Operational issues, how do I resolve those things? How do I even notice when they're happening? Am I hearing about it from maybe the business unit themselves, or do I have a way of looking at my environment quickly from a dashboard perspective and being able to get some of those alerts so I can get to it maybe even before the business unit comes to me? Maybe the application that they use, the line of business app, might have some dependencies, things are going on with that server on the back end, maybe some SQL, and I'm getting some alerts so I can address it before I even get a knock on my door. So again, some of these concerns and the way we can manage those. So over the years, with the evolution of IT technologies from desktop to server to virtualization to now cloud, Microsoft has evolved the management technologies to solve the needs for these customers. Today, the heterogeneous cloud-inspired environments, coupled with the increasing demand for innovation and fast time to value, there is a need for a modern management solution that can manage any platform, anywhere, and keep up with the pace of transformation while supporting the critical legacy infrastructure footprint on premises. Again, we're not necessarily transferring, but we have all that investment on premises, what we still need to manage and have control over. But as we move workloads and resources to the cloud, how do we keep our management and insight into those? Constantly being asked to improve that solution. Just another quick look at the IT lifecycle, if you will. Of course, it says the modern cloud management, but really I think this is a good representation of the IT lifecycle in general. And just starting with the build, the dev tools that we're using, the packaging of applications themselves, and solutions, how we're delivering those. Then going clockwise, you know, the configuration, can we make those an environment that's the same state every time, or are we stick building them? How are we patching and maintaining those configuration, keeping, again, that same state that we'd like to have in our environment for stability and continuity reasons? How are we monitoring those resources? We want to get alerts, you know, obviously major alerts and events that happen we want to know about as soon as possible, maybe even pull out some analytics, some useful information that we can do and use for optimization and some discovery. Moving along, protecting and securing almost kind of really go together, but protecting with backup. How do I keep my data safe? Where do I put it? Maybe that's where I can use the cloud. Recovery, business continuity, and availability. How do I make sure my business critical workloads are going to stay up and working and operational? Securing them, how do I make sure that malware is not infiltrating my organization, my data, causing me headaches, issues, data loss, and detecting those environments and maybe some of those vulnerabilities quicker? And then moving all the way to governance. So I have all this in place, this IT lifecycle. Stuff in the cloud is a lot of subscription-based, but even on premises. You know, what policies, what type of RBAC do I have? You know, role-based access controls around access to those environments, who can do what, and optimization around maybe the money I'm even spending around putting all this together. So how do we pull all this together and manage our existing on-premise environments as we look to extend our IT environments to the public cloud? And that's where enter Microsoft Operations Management Suite. So this is probably one of the most popular slides you'll see when kind of looking at the whole or the entirety of Operations Management Suite. But at its core, Operations Management Suite is a collection of 4 main services that deliver a unified IT management solution that enables you to gain deep visibility, automate, protect, and secure your key workloads no matter where they are. The 4 main services being log analytics, backup and recovery, IT automation, and security and compliance. And we'll certainly break those down in following slides a little bit more. But Operations Management Suite, also affectionately known as OMS, in the Microsoft world, there's a lot of acronyms and abbreviations. Operations Management Suite does not dodge that, and it's just one more. So you'll hear me interchange throughout this presentation. I'll probably call it both, but it means the same thing. So it's a collection of these services that were designed in the cloud from the start. Rather than deploying and managing on-premise resources alone, OMS complements or has components that are entirely hosted in Azure. Excuse me. So each service provides a specific management function unto itself, but you can combine those services to achieve different management scenarios. So just taking a minute to take a look at the slide, we're really, I think the shocker there, right? People might look at right off to the right-hand side and say, you're telling me the Operations Management Suite can look into and control some resources on Amazon Web Services? And I say, yes, it can. So that's one of the kind of maybe some more surprising facts, but it also has tie-ins to maybe your private clouds or even your physical servers on premises. It's not restricted just to cloud resources, and that's really the benefit. Again, we're talking about that hybrid approach, that across-the-board mentality of insight, management, configuration, control, protection, all of those wrapped up underneath this solution. So, and of course you have virtual machines that can stand up in Azure as well, and you have insights and really quick tie-in really to Operations Management Suite. It doesn't take a lot to kind of get this going. That is really one of the biggest value adds in my opinion. So something you might already be using today, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier on the call, was that if you already have some type of management out there for your on-premise environment, one very well-known one from Microsoft is System Center. Right? It has a lot of different pieces. It's pretty encompassing, and we do have a lot of organizations and enterprise-level organizations in particular that use System Center already today. So I think sometimes the question becomes, why would I need OMS, Operations Management Suite? And really what I would say is that it complements. You can augment some of the things that you can do today with System Center and have that same type of control, access, insight into your cloud workloads as well. So just running down real quick, these bullet lists with OMS can provide a centralized log repository for System Center customers that helps with faster investigation of operational issues through log analytics. System Center customers can onboard into OMS within a few clicks, enabled by the existing SCOM agents that provides efficient server discovery and agent deployment. So OMS also can extend System Center Operations Manager, the SCOM, through alert management capabilities, surfacing all alerts through a web interface with the ability to drill down and visualize easily. System Center customers managing Hyper-V VMwares through Virtual Machine Manager, another component of System Center, can do capacity planning and management out of the box through OMS. So a little bit of right sizing there. You can figure out, do I have virtual machines that aren't being used fully, or do I have ones that are under provision? Building out your environment, some insight into that. And lastly, System Center customers can leverage Azure Site Recovery through OMS to achieve integrated recovery for VM workloads, as well as can provide file and folder level cloud backup and long-term retention, leveraging Azure backup through OMS. So really just, again, the concept there is that System Center, and again, this slide is just pretty much reinforcing that System Center works with Operations Management Suite. Now, just real quick, you don't have to have System Center to purchase or to use Operations Management Suite. They are not necessarily one or the other. Again, that's really what we talk about, being able to combine both for that hybrid and heterogeneous environment, the management around that. And then you have innovation through cloud cadence in the way that this being all in the cloud Operations Management Suite, that is, and complementing System Center, Microsoft is constantly updating this and giving you more and more abilities around these, kind of massaging them, and very open to feedback from the user community. So I talked about it earlier, but what makes up Operations Management Suite is really 4 core management services. So we start off with log analytics, and really you can gain deeper insights into applications and workloads with log analytics, separate the signal from the noise, really being able to collect, correlate, and act on log data from multiple systems in a single view, map and understand the dependencies of workloads and applications, address incidents quickly with a flexible search and custom alerts. So, and that's really, the operational insights is almost where about 2014, 2013, where OMS was born from. It had an earlier iteration, but that looks closely to what we have today. And then they stacked on these other services or these other core solutions. So moving along to backup and recovery. So we're ensuring that our data is protected with cloud backup and disaster recovery. With this solution, integrated cloud backup and disaster recovery provide a simple and cost-effective solution to protect enterprise applications and data irrespective of its location. Automate the orderly recovery of services in the event of a site outage at your primary data center, and you can also reduce cost and increase compliance with efficient and flexible online cloud backup and recovery services. And again, we'll dig into each and every one of these a little bit more to talk about it. So this is just kind of an overview altogether. IT automation and control, the next big piece or the next core service of OMS. Being able to increase control with automation and configuration management, deliver continuous IT services, and manage rapid change across heterogeneous environments. Take control of your environment by remediating operational issues, so you get time back to focus on the work that adds business value. Keep service levels high and migrate risk to enable a constant or consistent enterprise. Transform complex and repetitive tasks with IT automation. So things that you do constantly to build out your environment, things that might get stick built. I know when I was on the infrastructure side of the house, maybe the one time, I don't like admitting this, but it's the truth. The one time I built out a VDI environment, I started with maybe a template and then tweaked it a little bit, and some of those different changes in the way you build that out, or some of the IT and automations and controls, you can set forth that desired state of configuration with IT automation. And then there's even more than that, but really that's one of the big value adds there. And finally, moving along to security and compliance. So we're talking about threat detection and prevention through advanced cloud security, preventing, detecting, and responding to threats with increased visibility. Take control of your cloud security by defining policies that recommend and monitor security configurations. Leverage Microsoft security data and analysis to perform more intelligent and effective threat detection. Microsoft as a whole, just so you're aware, if you're not already, is really doubling down on security. That is really one of the main things that keeps us all up at night. And they have basically a whole army of resources on the Microsoft side, constantly scanning, seeing what threats are out there, seeing what's getting into organizations or maybe causing an issue and security concerns, and moving things out of compliance and how to recognize that, all those things. And you're getting the value of this because, again, it's all in the cloud with Operations Management Suite, and then can tie that back into something like System Center or even on its own to help you keep your environment secure and compliant. So digging deeper into each core service, we're talking about delivering IT insights with log analytics here. So log management across physical, virtual, and cloud infrastructure, separate the signal from the noise with powerful log management tools, intelligent searching of logs as opposed to scanning through page after page of log files. So someone used to come to me and say, this website's acting up and it's doing this, and it might take quite a while to pull out. I'd have to go find out what dates it happened, pull all the logs, take a look at it, and really what you're doing here and have the ability to is go into that dashboard, go right into a date and time. You can scale it down, I think even down to maybe minutes, very quickly and easily, and then pierce into those results and really dig into and get that result quicker than having to sift through all of that. So collecting and searching across multiple sources from multiple systems in a single big data store. So I think that talks to really the approach that Microsoft is using here to being able to look at all that data from all the different endpoints in a big data way. Some of it's going to be structured, unstructured. What information can I collect from that quickly and get that valuable information out of it. So tying on into that as well as easily identify and get to the root cause of the operational issues. Kind of already spoke to that. So there's also capacity planning and deep visibility into your data center across premises and across on-premises. Pinpoint capacity shortages and investigate what-if type scenarios. Identify stale or over-allocated virtual machines. Plan for your future compute and storage needs of your infrastructure. So looking a little bit further into this, what log analytics can bring to the table and what devices really. So we're collecting, searching, and visualizing machine data from resources hosted in the cloud and on premises. Log analytics takes in semi-structured and unstructured data generated by servers, system, endpoints, all coming in the form of metrics, events, etc., and helps you sift through the mounds of information to really pull out the important actionable information to give you the visibility and deep insights that make a difference when managing your IT environment. So you can see, just looking quickly at this graphic, all the different types of resources that gather logs, or all the different endpoints, if you will, that can enter in and process to log analytics, and then also the different data sets or data actual collections, the type of data that can be collected by OMS. One thing I wanted to point out is on the left-hand side there you see a little Linux penguin. That was something that was in preview for some time and now is in GA. So I mentioned it earlier, Microsoft is constantly adding to these features to be able to even broaden a more open platform, including, we talked about the AWS. Now Linux, it's not just Windows-based machines that we're able to take data from and make actionable item and resource or solutions from. Moving along to the automation and control core offering. I mean, when you talk about the automation and control with OMS, there's really three major areas that make that up. It starts with process automation, which is the ability to integrate and orchestrate how you want infrastructure and applications deployed. The power with this really comes from how you want services to be deployed across your on-premise environment and in Azure or in other public clouds in a controlled way, while allowing you to integrate those systems that you already have. In essence, it's really built to allow you to integrate with existing management systems, things like System Center and Azure, in a unified way so that you can deploy your infrastructure and applications to put them under management. Looking into that further, so configuration management is the other kind of part of that offering underneath automation and control. How do I make sure and state my desired configuration is applied onto the virtual machines in Azure, onto the infrastructure in my data, onto the applications, so that you can define what the instance is supposed to look like. You can just create roles that define that. So things like web server or IRS server, you can just assign those policies or roles, and that configuration is set and maintained. And really, last but not least on this, for automation and control, we're talking about update management. So you may already be using SCCM or WSUS or some other solution to kind of manage patching and updating your environment. But Microsoft wanted to give the ability for a unified view for these updates across your entire environment, visibility into security updates and patch status for not only the servers you have on premises, but also the resources being spun up in Azure. Some of those may not even be on the domain. Some may be, some might not be, depending on the workload. So with update management in OMS, we will be able to get the status and insight into compliance of those machines, and all those resources. Will also be able to provide visibility, but the ability to make sure those security updates are actually applied and the compliance is enforced. So next we move on to really protecting and extending your data center. It's really the stories around availability. How do we make sure our environment and what we have on premises or in the cloud is backed up, maintained, protected. So we're talking about the ability to define recovery plans and easy to manage recovery points, help eliminate the chance of data loss in case of disaster with better recovery points and management, being able to meet business requirements of cloud protection with customized recovery plans, maximize uptime with resource health assessment, get continuous monitoring of protected instances remotely or on local servers. Unified solution for protecting data on premises and in the cloud. So protect your critical systems and applications including Microsoft SharePoint, Exchange, SQL Server, different files and folder level of recovery and backup, Windows servers, Windows clients, and Azure infrastructure as a service virtual machines as well. OMS provides availability and protection for hybrid and heterogeneous environments, allowing organizations to harness a near unlimited amount of compute and storage in the cloud for dev test, cloud bursting, migration reporting and analytics, recovery backup, and into long-term data retention. So and this is kind of an area I want to break out to a little bit, is the actual solutions that support the protection and backup of your resources. So what you're looking at here is Azure Site Recovery, and again, you may be familiar with that. It's a solution that's been around in Azure for quite some time. It's one of the biggest value adds, in my opinion. Again, when we're talking about protecting those valuable resources, line of business applications, your Exchange servers, things like that. How do we replicate that? How do we protect those? And really, where Azure Site Recovery comes into play is it can, manage and orchestrate the ability to stand those up in a already owned location, maybe another data center that you already have, or up into Azure, so you're not paying for or leasing some other building or space somewhere. You can actually use Azure failover. So Azure Site Recovery provides high availability for servers and application. It contributes to your business continuity and disaster recovery strategy by orchestrated replication, failover, recovery of on-premise Hyper-V virtual machines, VMware virtual machines, and physical Windows and Linux servers. You can replicate machines to a secondary data center or extend your data center replicating them to Azure. Just mention that. If your primary site is unavailable, you fail over to a secondary location so that users can keep on working and fail back when the systems return to working order. That's another feature that's Azure Site Recovery, at least a portion of it, really started gaining its momentum when Microsoft grabbed a solution called Image Scout, probably about 1.5 years ago, I believe, and that's really what added some of this additional functionality of being able to fail over to Azure and then back to on-premises. Along with that, Site Recovery also provides simple failover and recovery for different workloads, integrating with disaster recovery mechanisms such as the already existing with SQL Server. So SQL Server Always On provides recovery plans for easy failover of workloads that are tiered across multiple machines. One of the lesser known uses of site recovery is not only for business continuity and availability, but is as a migration tool. So we see more and more organizations using this functionality and ability of Azure Site Recovery to migrate or move servers from on-premises to Azure, and believe it or not, even be able to move virtual machines that might already be with AWS on their cloud and move those over to Azure. So some really, really cool features with Azure Site Recovery. And again, that's a part of Operations Management Suite. Continuing on, Azure Backup is really the kind of file and folder level that's really started, but it provides data backup and restores services for being a part of OMS. It protects your application data and retains it for years without any capital investment with minimal operating costs. So, going out and getting a SAN and some, third-party solution that ties into that and manages all that, Azure Backup gives you a way to do that quickly and easily to the cloud. So it can back up data from a physical and virtual Windows servers in addition to application workloads such as SQL Server, SharePoint. It can also be used by System Center Data Protection Manager. So again, for our organizations and customers that are already using portions of System Center, you may already be familiar with Data Protection Manager and how to replicate the protected data as a part of Data Protection Manager and move it to Azure for redundancy, moving it off-site for that extra 9 of protection, if you will, and long-term storage inexpensively. So Azure Backup even includes the ability to download bits for free for a solution called Azure Backup Server, which, much like customers already taking advantage of Data Protection Manager, now have the ability to do a disk to cloud backup and recovery. So you have that local restore point to get access to files and folders and those important applications quickly and locally. Anything across the WAN is going to take a little bit. If you're downloading 30 gigabytes of data, I don't know how common of a use case that is, but that's going to certainly take a bit. If you had to do the same 30 over, locally on this the Azure Backup Server, you're going to be able to get to that a lot quicker through your infrastructure and your core network. But you have that ability to then maybe move archive data to the cloud in long-term storage in Azure for pennies. We're really talking about with Azure Backup, you can use locally redundant storage, and that starts at 2 cents a gigabyte per month, so pretty darn cheap. That protected data in Azure Backup is stored in a backup vault located in a particular geographic region that you get to state. So you tell Microsoft, and you get to choose where that data is stored. It's not like it just kind of goes out in the ether and into the cloud, and we don't have any control over it. And then that data is replicated within the same region up to 3 times with the locally redundant storage. And depending on the type of vault and recovery vault, may also be replicated to another region for further resiliency. So that kind of wrapped up the protection and availability. And really, last but not least, what we're talking about here is of the 4 core services within Operations Management Suite is security and compliance. So how do we champion security and compliance in our organizations and really across the cloud and on premises? So we do that with comprehensive updates and assessments across those data centers and public clouds, identifying missing system updates across all your servers. You can quickly go into this dashboard and see maybe any of the red. And of course, we see red, we want to check it out. What servers are kind of showing up and saying they haven't been updated, or for whatever reason might be the reason that they didn't get that update. Sometimes we get a link to that. You have to go look up the knowledge base article on what other pre-patch or pre-requirement was necessary for this major security update or this patch. Those types of things are all in one spot now, so you can drill down quickly and easily. Being able to enable cloud-based patch management for all your environments. So not only visibility into which servers might not have all those updates and therefore are underneath the security risk, but what can we do? We can tie in the ability to actually run that patch and that management or update on those machines, those servers. Know which one of your servers have the latest and greatest and which ones need them. So we're also talking about the detection of breaches and threats with a malware assessment. Quickly assess servers that are infected by malware. It happens. We want to do our best to keep it out one way or the other. It can happen in an organization. What type of tools do we have to quickly take a look at that and assess the risk and health of things like maybe even your Active Directory and SQL Server cluster behind the scenes from any type of malware or security breaches. There's even built-in search queries for issues that require your attention. So again, we're talking about quickly getting some management and some visibility into what steps you might need to take next, even some suggestions on how to best approach it. And again, we're doing that all from a single dashboard. And I think that's really where one of the largest value adds with all this is. And then there's compliance and certifications in regard to industry standards. Ensuring that your IT infrastructure meets compliance standards. Collecting security logs, perform audits at regular intervals, so there can be a regular ongoing cadence to how you secure and keep your environment up to snuff, so to speak, without a lack of better terms there. So really those are all the solutions or the main core offerings that make up Operations Management Suite. One of the other value adds I really see within Operations Management Suite is these really what's called management solutions or the solutions gallery. You can think of the solutions gallery as an internal OMS app store or plugin repository. That might be a really simplified view of it, but that's what I tend to do, and it helps me understand what it can be used for. So solutions themselves, the management solutions themselves, are groupings or of pre-packaged sets of logic, complementary rules, queries, and visualizations that tackle key customer IT management challenges, usually made up of more than one OMS service. So again, I think we talked about earlier how the services can be used in of themselves and be very valuable, but when we start combining them and creating these solution packs, if you will, it really addresses certain IT challenges and just is that much more resourceful. And again, we're talking about being able to turn this up very quickly, maybe look into one of these solutions, and you now really within an hour, maybe even less, have insight that you haven't had for months across your organization and across your environment. So using the solutions gallery, you're able to choose from a number of the management solutions. These were formerly known as intelligence packs, and with that you can integrate them quickly into your OMS dashboard. Unfortunately, we don't have a demo today. That's something maybe we can do at a later time. But being able to look at the dashboard and we can do some customizations to it, so you can plug these in as need be, and maybe you want to make one a little bit bigger or a little bit more to the front and take up a little bit real estate on that dashboard than maybe some others that you don't use on a regular basis but need access to them. So all those things are something we can do within OMS. I do expect the number of these management solutions to keep growing, and in the future Microsoft will be looking to give you the ability to create your own management solutions, which I always think is very cool. Microsoft has a lot of time and energy into solutions that make sense. There's even the ability now that third-party vendors and partners are providing solutions to the gallery that you can easily add to the subscription to increase your value and in your investment in OMS. But that ability to always, maybe create and customize your own, tweak them as needed, because all are in different environments, as similar as they might be, there's always that maybe one-off or thing that we wish we're able to tweak a little bit and get a little bit more actionable information from, and that's what I see with some of these solutions. I do want to take a minute and talk about highlight two of the particular OMS solutions that I think are very, very cool and are starting to stir a lot of buzz. the update solution, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but again, OMS has its own kind of piece and monitoring and analytics that can pull out, but this solution, combining all that together in one package, you can help remove the uncertainty out of patching your servers with Microsoft Operations Management Suite. This patching solution that we're talking about, which is currently in preview, provides insights into time estimates, sequence of patches needed to keep your servers up to date. You can do intelligent patching with workload awareness across heterogeneous environments, including Linux. Relieve stress of patching by maintaining control of when and how to patch. Believe it or not, we think with something like this, patching even during business hours can become a reality because you have the insight of some dependencies and what else is being affected. So a lot of times we have to do some of this stuff either very scheduled or maybe even off hours, depending on what we're updating. So it's a very cool feature there. Another one, and this is one that's really neat in my opinion, is it's now called Service Map, but it was not too long ago also known as Application Dependency Monitor, or ADM. This is also in preview. And when I mean preview, there's two different levels of preview. There's public and private. So some of these you can actually click in the OMS dashboard today and take a look at these solutions and use them and see how they work for your environment and your control and management that you need. So with Service Map being in preview today, it really gives you the ability to present a view of your servers as you think of them, an interconnected system that deliver services and rely on other technologies. So it helps discover and map server and process dependencies in real time without any predefinition, and visualizes application components, service dependencies, and supporting infrastructure configuration. This helps you eliminate the guesswork of problem isolation, identify surprise connections and broken links in your environment, perform Azure migrations, knowing that critical systems and endpoints won't be left behind. The system map, which is in public preview, supports Windows and Linux guests in any cloud and on premises. So, really, this is something that the organization that I used to work for before coming over to PCM, when I was on the infrastructure administrative side of things, we had to do this manually. There might have been some tools out there, but we had to build out this mapping to make sure that when we updated one server, or maybe the DBA that was dealing with SQL, needed to change something, that it didn't break, the three other applications that he might not remembered about. This mapping, or these dependency mapping, shows all of that. And then you can even get insights into problems if you're going to move it. I mean, that's just one use case. So discovering and automatically build common reference map to dependencies across servers and even third-party services. Incident management by viewing cascading alerts, failed connection, load balancing issues, and even rogue clients. So it's not only your environment that you're taking a look at. If any of your applications or your resources are reaching outside of your walls, so to speak, you get to see that as far as it'll go, and that's pretty darn cool. So we've talked a lot about the solution. One of the other benefits really is, I have all this operations management suite. It's great. How do I get access to it? You talk about this dashboard, and really you can get to it from anywhere. You can use a web browser as long as you have internet connectivity, or now there's even the ability to download a smartphone application. So Windows phones, iOS, Android are all supported. So, whether you're on the go, in the office, or, let's face it, in our world, even when you're supposed to be on vacation, you'll have the ability to check in and manage your OMS workloads and resources. So really quickly, the Operations Management Suite roadmap, this is, I do apologize, I should have tweaked this a little bit. You can see Linux is on there. That's moved to GA now. There's even other solutions like the wire data, the patching and learning, inventorying. We talked about some of this is in preview, but I think really the concept or something that I want you to take away from this is because OMS is in the cloud and you're subscribing to it, there's no, when Microsoft comes up with something and adds it to the mix and adds a solution that can be very, very helpful, or other organizations are giving feedback on, or maybe even you are, you can plug that right in. There's that constant cadence of updating, and there's no, on your end, you're not building out another server or doing an update. I think that is, huge when you talk about these environments. So, it's great. You have other tools to do some of these management, but are you able to do that? Are you able to just to, kind of plug in the next version quickly and easily without all this rigmarole, and just use it? And that's really where OMS, I think, holds a huge value. So really quickly, I'm not going to go, we're starting to run out of time, and I do want to leave some time for questions. Why MS? It's simple. The time to value. We talked about being able to onboard fast, easy to integrate, whether you have System Center already, or you're just downloading the agent, tying in your virtual machines or your physical machines, and want to gain insight right away. And it's, as we talked, it's hybrid and open. It works across Windows, Linux, public clouds, Azure, AWS, Rackspace, kind of goes on and on and on. So those are really the reasons why I say, OMS might be something you really want to look into. Real quick, Operations Management Suite pricing. It's you can purchase some of these standalone. If you see off to the left there, the solutions can be purchased per node, and that is the breakdown. But really, I'd move your kind of vision, if you will, to the right-hand side of the slide, in that the Operations Management Suite, there is an E1 and an E2, and you can see there by the checkboxes what's kind of included. So you don't have to buy all of it. If you're not going to do backup and recovery, then maybe you stick with the E1 and you get the insight analytics and the automation control, desired state configuration, things like that. And your per node there, your per server at $20, compared to if you buy really any one of those standalone, you're almost right there at the $20 by itself. So to me, it kind of makes sense to look at that. There's even a third way that's not on here. You can buy, some of these solutions have been in Azure for some time, the log analytics and so on and so forth. You can, buy different metrics, use your Azure commitment that you might have, either pay-as-you-go or a monetary commitment you have based off an agreement, use against Operations Management Suite. So there's a couple different ways to purchase it. It can get kind of complicated. Microsoft has even provided now a calculator of sorts to take a look at nodes and really break down which way it makes sense to purchase Operations Management Suite. And we talked about Operations Management Suite working with System Center. So what if I'm already using it and I want to tie in with Operations Management Suite? You can take advantage of a step-up SKU to upgrade that that System Center license to OMS for a fraction of the cost, or maybe if you're at the end of the cycle of your licensing with the System Center and want to transform and turn those into OMS licenses, because again, as you can see off to the right-hand side there, System Center licensing is included with your Operations Management Suite licensing. So if you buy it as a suite, those System Center licenses are something you have rights to. So you continue to use that stuff on premises. So we can help you work through all of that and really what makes sense. This is a really neat graphic. I haven't seen it a lot. I kind of tweaked it a little bit. But this is a comparison that was done a bit ago. But I updated the price of OMS to show that we're really taking, when we combine things like a Splunk to get some insights and Symantec that might be handling part of the backup features that we're using today, and a chef for some automation, and VMware doing things like site recovery for our environments. We're combining all those, OMS as a whole with the E2 suite is providing more than 90% of those important features for your IT management at just around half the price. That's pretty compelling unto itself, I think. So how do we get started? And getting started with OMS is pretty quickly and easily. That's what we talked about. You can sign right up for it if you have Azure. Azure is is needed. So for Operations Management Suite, you can go to the first link. There's also a trial. It's kind of neat. You can sign up for a one-on-one demo with Microsoft. Of course, we have the ability to help you here at PCM as well. But part of that trial link, the second one down, is also that you can just quickly look at it, maybe pick and choose which one of the core services underneath OMS that you want to take a look at. Say you just want to look at backup and recovery and how that works with OMS, or the log analytics piece. You can just kind of take a quick look, and it's a pre-populated environment that you can run some of these, like a trial against, and see how it works in that dashboard. And then, of course, please reach out to us here at PCM. If you email us at microsoft@pcm.com. We'll get the right bodies on the phone with you. Like I said, including myself for the East Coast, my counterpart for the Central and West, and we even have engineers and architects that implement these things, OMS and different infrastructure as a service workloads in Azure, many different things across the board. So we can get on the line with you and kind of work through this and take a deeper dive. So with that, we'll open it up to some questions. I really appreciate it. I know I went through a bunch of information. Hopefully some of it at least was of use to you. Yeah, I'd say, Newman, if we can see if there's any questions out there.
Thank you, Brian. Yes,
Yep.
we have got a few questions lined up in the questions box. Yeah,
Okay.
but just to remind you all, if you have still got any questions, you can put them in the question box now, and I will put them forward in front of Brian. Okay, Brian, the first question I have got from Min Quach. I think I got the name right. Okay, he is asking, how do you take a VM from Azure and download it to a Hyper-V server on an on-premises private cloud? And he's also asking, we want to be able to have one generalized virtual machine that works in both Azure and on-premises.
Well, and I can address the second part quicker first, because I think that's a little bit more relevant here. If you're using Hyper-V, the image behind that virtual machine is in a VHD format. So that's pretty quick and easy, and you can literally just copy that up. You can use Azure Site Recovery. You can actually copy that up manually to storage in Azure and really build off machines or spin them up based off of that VHD image. In regard to the first part, you really aren't going to protect Azure Infrastructure as a Service virtual machines and move them on premises. I mean, you can, but the protection and all that with Azure, or excuse me, with the infrastructure as a service and virtual machines in Azure, you would use Azure Backup Service to protect those and have replicated copies of those in Azure and spin them up as necessary. So, and if we need to dig into some of this, more, be happy to get up on follow-up, call.
The next question we have is from Nicholas Noor. He's asking about the $35 charge per month covers all nodes as a price. Also, data retention is for 30 days, but these are available for 90 days as logs.
So the $25 for each node, I guess we're talking about the operating, the OMS suite version, and everything per node is charged just like that. So if we have a particular instance in of itself, that is a node, or really most of the times that's a server that you're protecting with OMS. So that is all encompassed with that. Now, having said that, there's the E1 offering and the E2, depending on what type of solutions you're going to really use against that node or that server. And I'm sorry, the data retention, what was that again, if you don't mind?
Also, data retention is for 30 days, but these are available for 90 days as logs.
So actually, there's different retention periods depending on what you're using. There's even kind of start off, you can keep the log analytics portions for I think by default it might be 30 days, but you can expand that out longer if you need to. And I don't know, that might be something that depending on what your requirements are, having that for a longer period of time. But OMS is pretty flexible in that. I mean, can't keep all this data forever, of course, and I know that's not what you're asking, but we can be flexible with how long that data is stored.
Thank you so much, Brian. Okay, I've got a couple of questions from Bentley Turner. Okay, the first part of the question is a node considered workstation or server?
So that's a great question, and all questions have actually been really good, and I appreciate them. So you can, a node can be considered a workstation or a server. So it's really, that's why they kind of keep it, I think, a more generic term, almost like with Azure Site Recovery, you talk about instances. A lot of times those are servers, but they can be workstations that we're protecting as well. So a node can be both. I don't know that Operations Management Suite, not that we can't use it, but I don't know that a lot of organizations are using it across entire desktops, right, if that's what the kind of use case we're talking about.
Thank you. The second part of the question is this tool typically used for servers, and can they both on-premises and hosted in Azure?
Yes, so we kind of touched on that. So yeah, most of the time organizations are really kind of looking at using OMS for insight around their servers, not so much individual desktops, but that is really kind of where we see it used most heavily, or most organizations. And yeah, so again, and I do appreciate all the questions. I think sounds like there's probably some more in the hopper. We'll probably have to take those offline, and I'm more than happy to address those and maybe reply via email, or if we can get a call set up to go over in more details.
Thank you so much, Brian. These are all the questions we have, but still, if you have got any questions which you think you want to get them answered, please email them at webinars@pcm.com, or you can directly contact Brian Manzure as well. Brian, if you can give out your email address again, and then we'll just sum it up.
So it's right there at the bottom, bmanzure@onpoint.com. You can get a hold of me, and we'll get you some answers. So thank you again for everyone's time.
Thank you. Okay, then thank you so much, Brian. It was a great presentation, and thank you all for joining me today. Have a great day.
Everyone have a good one. Thank you very much.